14th. Mum's back. Things are going good with Yaz. She might call me later. I'm loving life. And I'm a lot more calmer, but I do still crack the shits at little things. Sue me. Let's hear this on the big speaker. This is the Pope addressing the world address, the world situation. Barb's put this up. Oh, God.
I would like to thank His Excellency, Ambassador George.
Pope Leo delivers first State of the World address to envoys from 84 nations. This is going to be good. "44 minutes, oh boy."
George Polides, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, for his kind and respectful words on your behalf.
I'll listen to some of it, and then I'll get ChatGPT to summarize it.
I welcome all of you to this meeting for the exchange of greetings at the beginning of the new year. This is a traditional occasion in the life of the Diplomatic Corps, accredited to the Holy See. But it is a new experience for me, since it was only several months ago that I was called to shepherd Christ's flock. I am pleased, therefore, to welcome you this morning, and I am grateful for your generous participation,
Very golden chair you're sitting
which this year is enriched by the presence of the new resident heads of mission of Kazakhstan, Burundi, and Belarus. I thank the respective governmental authorities for their decision to open in Rome diplomatic representations to the Holy See. This is a tangible sign of good and fruitful bilateral relations. To each of you, dear ambassadors, I wish to extend my good wishes to your countries and to share a reflection on our times with tensions and conflicts. This past year saw many significant events, beginning with those directly affecting the life of the Church, which experienced a profound jubilee and saw the return to the Father's house of my venerable predecessor, Pope Francis. The whole world gathered around his coffin on the day of his funeral and sensed the loss of a father who had guided the people of God with immense pastoral charity. A few days ago, we closed the last holy door, that of St. Peter's Basilica, which Pope Francis himself had opened on Christmas night in 2024. During the Holy Year, millions of pilgrims flocked to Rome to make their Jubilee pilgrimage. Each person brought his or her own experiences, questions, and joys, as well as pains and wounds, to pass through the holy doors, which are symbols of Christ himself, our heavenly physician. By coming in the flesh, he took upon himself our humanity in order to make us partakers of his divine life, as we contemplated in the recent celebration of Christmas. I am confident that through these experiences, many people have been able to deepen or rediscover their relationship with the Lord Jesus, finding comfort and renewed hope for facing life's challenges. In questa sede desidero esprimere particolare gratitudine ai romani che con grande pazienza e senso di ospitalità si sono fatti carico dei numerosi pellegrini e turisti giunti in urbe da ogni parte del mondo. Uno speciale apprezzamento desidero rivolgere al governo italiano, all'amministrazione capitolina e alle forze dell'ordine, che si sono adoperate con zelo e precisione perché Roma fosse in grado di accogliere tutti i visitatori e gli eventi giubilari e quelli successivi alla morte di Papa Francesco potessero svolgersi in serenità e sicurezza. La Santa Sede e l'Italia condividono non solo la vicinanza geografica, ma soprattutto la lunga storia di fede e di cultura che lega la Chiesa a questa splendida penisola e al suo popolo. Ne sono un segno anche le eccellenti relazioni bilaterali, suggellate quest'anno dall'entrata in vigore delle modifiche all'accordo sull'assistenza spirituale delle forze armate, che consentirà una maggiore efficacia nell'accompagnamento spirituale delle donne e degli uomini che prestano il loro servizio nelle forze armate in Italia e nelle numerose missioni all'estero, come pure la
Wait, Zoe, I just wanted to call you so my Bergen friends can hear your Bergen accent, because I want you to out-Bergen them. So, like, can you just do, like, a voice message back?
Just do it?
Can you? No, I didn't. Yeah, just send back a voice thing with your voice, with your ching chong, tiny weeny ching chong voice. Okay, bye.
What a pleasant surprise to get not only a good movie in January, but one that's so good that it makes the audience burst into applause. And I'm hearing that happened at other press screenings as well at a very specific moment. So you gotta go just for that. And I'll be curious to hear. Don't spoil what the point in the movie is. But let me know if your audience applauds as well. I think it's impossible not to. It's that incredible. Now, I had no idea what to expect going into 28 years later, The Boned.
dell'accordo per un impianto agrivoltaico e energia elettrica rinnovabili, confermando così il of the First Ecumenical Council. This was an important opportunity for renewing our commitment to the journey towards the full visible unity of all Christians. In the days of the Lebanon, I met a people who was Kaputmundi, the great capital. And no one could have imagined that it would fall into the hands of its enemies. Now, with the God of the Christians, this great city no longer seems secure. Certainly, our times are very distant from those events. This is not simply a question of temporal distance, but also of a different cultural awareness and the development of categories of thought. However, we cannot overlook the fact that our own cultural sensibilities have drawn nourishment from that work, which, like all the classics, speaks to people of every generation. Augustine interprets events in history itself according to the model of two cities. First, there's the city of God, which is eternal and characterized by God's unconditional love, amor Dei, as well as love for one's neighbor, especially the poor. Then there is the earthly city, which is a temporary dwelling place where human beings live until death. In our day, the latter includes all social and political institutions, from the family to the nation state and international organizations. For Augustine, this city was epitomized by the Roman Empire. Indeed, the earthly city is centered on pride and self-love, amor sui, and the thirst for worldly power and glory that leads to destruction. However, this is not a reading of history that seeks to contrast eternity with the present, the church with the state, nor is it a dialectic about the role of religion within civil society. In Augustine's view, the two cities coexist until the end of time. Each has both an external and an internal dimension.
Wow.
For they are to be understood not only in light of the external manner in which they are constructed throughout history, but also through the lens of the internal of each human being towards the realities of life and historical events. In this perspective, each of us is a protagonist and thus responsible for history. Moreover, Augustine emphasizes that Christians are called by God to dwell in the earthly city with their hearts and minds turned towards the heavenly city, their true homeland. But At the same time, Christians living in the earthly city are not strangers to the political world, and guided by the scriptures, seek to apply Christian ethics to civil government. The City of God does not propose a political program. Instead, it offers valuable reflections on fundamental issues concerning social and political life, such as the search for a more just and peaceful coexistence among peoples.
Just and coexistence.
Augustine also warns of the grave dangers to political life arising from false representations of history, excessive nationalism, and the distortion of the ideal of the political leader.
Trump.
Although the context in which we live today is different from that of the 5th century, some similarities remain highly relevant.
Yep.
We are now, as then, in an era of widespread migratory movements. Yep. As then, we are living at a time of a profound readjustment of geopolitical balances and cultural paradigms. As then, we are, in Pope Francis' well-known expression, not in an era of change, but in a change of era. In our time, the weakness of multilateralism is a particular cause for concern at the international level. A diplomacy that promotes dialogue and seeks consensus among all parties is being replaced by a diplomacy based on force by either individuals or groups of allies. War is back in vogue, and the zeal for war is spreading. The principle established after the Second World War, which prohibited nations from using force to violate the borders of others, has been completely undermined. Peace is no longer sought as a gift and a desirable good in itself, or in the pursuit of the establishment of the ordered universe.
As Gareth Lydiard says from the drones, all the Holocaust has done is keep the History Channel on air. They've learned nothing from it. Look what's happening in Ukraine.
First willed by God, with a more perfect form of justice among men and women.
Just force.
Instead,
Force is wrong.
peace is sought
Force
through weapons as a condition for asserting one's own dominion. This gravely threatens the rule of law, which is the foundation of all peaceful civil coexistence.
Force, war, it's disgusting.
Furthermore, St. Augustine notes, there is no one who does not wish to have peace. For even those who make war desire nothing but victory. They desire, that is to say, to attain peace with glory.
Yeah, peace with glory. That's their
For what else is victory than the conquest of those who resist us? And when this is done, there is peace. For even those who intentionally interrupt...
You know what the biggest problem with Russians are, and Hungarians? Statues. Think about it. The glory of conquering and the glory of peace. Look at St. Istvan. He has a whole day dedicated to him when they have fireworks in Hungary. All he did was conquer. And he forced, well, I don't know if he forced, maybe he negotiated, but whatever way, he made the pagans Catholics and Christians. And there was peace. It's all about the statue, getting that statue up in the court. Putin wants his statue. It's been good so far. He's on the money.
But only the peace that they desire.
St. Augustine, he called him.
It was precisely this attitude that led humanity into the tragedy of the Second World War. From those ashes, the United Nations was born, whose 80th anniversary was recently celebrated. The UN was established by the determination of 51 nations as a center of multilateral cooperation in order to prevent future...
But Bob, you and I know, even the United Nations, a bunch of apes in suits who think they know what's better, how to generate peace in the world. People like you, they don't listen to you. You're too radical.
Global catastrophes,
you're right, but you're too radical.
For safeguarding peace, defending fundamental human rights, and promoting sustainable development. I'd like to draw particular attention to the importance of international humanitarian law.
International humanitarianism.
Compliance with this cannot depend on mere circumstances and military or strategic interests. Humanitarian law, in addition to guaranteeing a minimum of humanity during the ravages of war, is a commitment that states have made. Such law must always prevail over the ambitions of belligerents in order to mitigate the devastating effects of war, also with a view to...
Look, Trump, I hear what you're doing. I know what you're doing with America. You just want America to be about America again. You don't want them to be the... You don't want to be the world police, but you want to be a world businessman. You can't afford to be so cavalier with being the most powerful nation in the world. You've got to step up and tell Putin to fucking stop. You're the only one who can. The fact that you're not is the only reason why I don't like you. Simple.
to reconstruction.
You've got the power.
We cannot ignore that the destruction of
Europeans and
hospitals, energy infrastructure, homes, and places essential to daily life constitutes a serious violation of international humanitarian law. The Holy See firmly reiterates its condemnation of any form of involvement of civilians in military operations. It likewise hopes that the international community will remember that the protection of the principle of the inviolability of human dignity and the sanctity of life always counts for more than any mere national interest. With this in mind, the United Nations has mediated conflicts, promoted development, and helped states protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. In a world facing complex challenges such as geopolitical tensions, inequalities, and climate crises, the UN should play a key role in fostering dialogue and humanitarian support, helping to build a more just...
But how do you stop a bully if you're not a heel? The United Nations, they're hippies. You need a heel. You need someone like a Trump to do the right thing. That's all. A bad guy who does the right thing, who has the ability to fuck someone up if they have to. World War II wasn't won by the United Nations. It was won by the cunts with the biggest fucking weapon. Bottom line. And more men.
Just future. Efforts are therefore needed to ensure that the United Nations not only reflects the situation of today's world rather than that of the post-war period, but that it is also more focused and efficient in pursuing policies aimed at the unity of the human family instead of ideologies. The purpose of multilateralism, then, is to provide a place where people can meet and talk, modeled on the ancient Roman Forum or the medieval square. At the same time, in order to engage in dialogue, there needs to be agreement on the words and concepts that are used. Rediscovering the meaning of words is perhaps one of the primary challenges of our time. When words lose their connection to reality, and reality itself becomes debatable and ultimately incommunicable, we become like the two people to whom St. Augustine refers, who are forced to stay together without either of them knowing the other's language. He observes that, I quote, "Dumb animals, even those of different species, understand each other more easily than these two individuals. For even though they are both human beings, their common nature is no help to friendliness when they are prevented by diversity of language from conveying their sentiments to..."
Here's the thing, communication. The song Schism by Tool. Yaz and I's relationship is a prime example of this. We are in love with each other. We will kill for each other. But we nearly killed each other through miscommunication. Through not using the right words.
End of quote. Today, the meaning of words is ever more fluid and the concepts they represent are increasingly ambiguous. Language is no longer the preferred means by which human beings come to know and encounter one another. Moreover, in the contortions of semantic ambiguity, language is becoming more and more a weapon with which to deceive or to strike and offend opponents. We need words once again to express distinct and clear realities unequivocally.
Objectively.
Only in this way can authentic dialogue resume without misunderstandings. This should happen in our homes and public spaces, in politics, in the media, and on social media. It should likewise occur in the context of international relations and multilateralism, so that the latter can regain the strength needed for undertaking its role of encounter and mediation. This is indeed necessary for preventing conflicts and for ensuring that no one is tempted to prevail over others with a mindset of force, whether verbal, physical, or military. We should also note the paradox that this weakening of language is often invoked in the name of freedom of expression itself. However, on closer inspection, the opposite is true. For freedom of speech and expression is guaranteed precisely by the certainty of language and the fact that every term is anchored in the truth.
Objectivity.
It is painful to see how, especially in the West, the space for genuine freedom of expression is rapidly shrinking. At the same time, a new Orwellian-style language is developing, which, in an attempt to be increasingly inclusive, ends up excluding those who do not conform to the ideologies that are fueling it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately,
let's talk that back to this whole women's movement, the Me Too movement, by being, like, you're excluding like people like my grandfather for talking like a racist sexist. He's not a racist sexist. His choice of language portrays him as someone who might be, to someone with dumb ears, judgmental ears that go, you can't say that, that's racist. You can't say that, that's sexist. By opening up diversity, you have also created a bubble of bigotry. The most racist people are anti-racists. You think about that for a second. You look at the way they spit down at perceived racists. It's fashionable. And it's dumb.
this leads to other consequences that end up restricting fundamental human rights, starting with the freedom of conscience. In this regard, conscientious objection allows individuals to refuse legal or professional obligations that conflict with moral, ethical, or religious principles deeply rooted in their personal lives.
If their identity is based on their beliefs of morality and the law says you have to break that, he said now, you have every right to tell the law to get fucked.
This may be the refusal of military service in the name of nonviolence, or the refusal on the part of doctors and healthcare professionals to engage in practices such as abortion or euthanasia. Conscientious objection is
Go back there, buddy.
Obligations that conflict with moral, ethical, or religious principles deeply rooted in their personal lives. This may be the refusal of military service in the name of nonviolence, or the refusal on the part of doctors and healthcare professionals to engage in practices such as abortion or euthanasia.
Okay. The other way is true too. You Christians can't tell doctors who believe in euthanasia and abortion that they can't do it. Simple as that. Free will. If the individual is willing to take the consequences and the heat, but believes that it's the right thing to do, you can't tell them any different either.
Conscientious objection is not rebellion, but an act of...
Here's something controversial. The only person who has a right over the life of another person, before it becomes a human being, is its mother. It grows from her body. It's a part of her physically. She has the right to say whether that thing lives or not God.
Of fidelity to oneself.
And if someone wants to die, if there's clear proof that that's their choice, they should be allowed to kill themselves and not be condemned to hell. Some people want to leave. That's their choice. Their body, their vessel, their God and their universe, their choice.
Freedom of conscience seems increasingly to be questioned by states, even those that claim to be based on democracy and human rights. This freedom, however, establishes a balance between the collective interest and individual dignity. It also emphasizes that a truly free society does not impose uniformity, but protects the diversity of consciences, preventing authoritarian tendencies and promoting an ethical dialogue that enriches the social fabric. In a similar way, religion...
Uniform's easier to manage, guaranteed, but it's sterile. I don't want to live in a sterile world.
Freedom risks being curtailed. As Benedict XVI recalled, this is the first of all human rights because it expresses the most fundamental reality of the person. The most recent data shows that violations of religious freedom are on the rise, and that 64% of the world's population suffers serious violations of this right. In requesting that the religious freedom and worship of Christians be fully respected, the Holy See asks the same for all other religious communities. On the 60th anniversary of the promulgation of the Declaration Nostra Aetate,
this is where I think Barb's right about Christianity and Catholicism and whatever. I still don't know if he's a Christian or a Catholic. Anyway. The big thing about these guys is they look at all the other religions and go, you're welcome as well in your beliefs. We acknowledge you and we respect you and we want everyone to respect you as well. Not many other religions do that. They're kind of our way or the highway. I think Buddhism would also be like this as well. But that's what I mean. This is the thing that Barb defends about this particular religion. She's right.
One of the fruits of the Second Vatican Ecumenical Council that concluded on December 8th, 1965, I had the opportunity to reiterate the categorical rejection of all forms of anti-Semitism, which unfortunately continues to sow hatred and death. And likewise emphasize the importance of cultivating the Jewish-Christian dialogue, deepening our common biblical roots. On that same commemorative occasion, the meeting with representatives of other religions allowed me to renew my appreciation for the progress made in recent decades along the path of interreligious dialogue. Indeed, in every sincere religious quest, there is a reflection of the one divine mystery that embraces all creation. In this regard, I ask all the nations to guarantee full freedom of religion and worship to each of their citizens. However, it cannot be overlooked that the persecution of Christians remains one of the most widespread human rights crises today, affecting over 380 million believers worldwide. They suffer high or extreme levels of discrimination, violence, and oppression because of their faith. This phenomenon impinges on approximately 1 in 7 Christians globally, and it worsened in 2025 due to ongoing conflicts, authoritarian regimes, and religious extremism. Sadly, all of this demonstrates that religious freedom is considered in many contexts more as a privilege or concession than a fundamental human right. Here I would especially call to mind the many victims of violence, including religiously motivated violence in Bangladesh, in the Sahel region, and in Nigeria, as well as those of the serious terrorist attack last June on the parish of St. Elias in Damascus. Nor do I forget the victims of jihadist violence in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique. At the same time, we must not forget a subtle form of religious discrimination against Christians, which is spreading even in countries where they are in the majority, such as in Europe or the Americas. There, they are sometimes restricted in their ability to proclaim the truths of the gospel for political or ideological reasons, especially when they defend the dignity of the weakest, the unborn, refugees, and migrants, or promote the family. In its international relations and actions, the Holy See consistently takes a stand in defense of the inalienable dignity of every person. It cannot be overlooked, for example, that every migrant is a person and as such has inalienable rights that must be respected in every situation. Not all migrants move by choice, but many are forced to flee because of violence, persecution, conflict, and even the effects of climate change, as in various parts of Africa and Asia. In this year, which also marks the 75th anniversary of the International Organization for Migration, I renew the Holy See's hope that the actions taken by states against criminality and human trafficking will not become a...
You know what the Moroccans say? If a stranger knocks on your door, it's in your culture, inbuilt in your culture, to let them stay at your house for at least 3 days. After 3 days, you can kick them out. So think about that. That's in their culture. That's how the world should be. We should be more like the
of migrants and refugees. The same considerations apply to prisoners who can never be reduced to the crimes they have committed. On this occasion, I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to the governments that have responded positively to my venerable predecessor's appeal for gestures of clemency during the Jubilee year. It is my hope that the spirit of the Jubilee will permanently and structurally inspire the administration of justice so that penalties are proportionate to the crimes committed. Dignified...
So my brother has fucked up plenty of times, but he still doesn't deserve to go to prison. He deserves to go to rehab, enforced rehab. Now, if the judge has any kind of intelligence, wisdom, or morality, even especially religious, this is what I would play.
Efforts are made to abolish the death penalty, a measure that destroys all hope of forgiveness and renewal. Nor can we forget the suffering of so many prisoners held for political reasons in many countries. Furthermore, from a Christian perspective, human beings are created in the image and likeness of God, who, by calling them into existence out of love, has at the same time called them to love. This vocation is revealed in a privileged and unique way within the family. It is in this context that we learn to love and foster the capacity to serve life, thus contributing to the development of society and the Church's mission. Despite its centrality, the institution of the family faces two crucial challenges today. On the one hand, there is a worrying tendency in the international system to neglect and underestimate its fundamental social role, leading to its progressive institutional marginalization. On the other hand, we cannot ignore the growing and painful reality of fragile, broken, and suffering families afflicted by internal difficulties and disturbing phenomena, including domestic violence. The vocation to love and to life, which manifests itself in an important way in the exclusive and indissoluble union between a woman and a man, implies a fundamental ethical imperative for enabling families to welcome and fully care for unborn life. This is increasingly a priority, especially in those countries that are experiencing a dramatic decline in birth rates. Life, in fact, is a priceless gift that develops within a committed relationship.
Yes, and take care of the ones who are already here while having more babies. I get it. I want my own child. things unborn. It's a mother. It's like asking. It's like saying a mother, you can't kill off a part of your body that you don't want. It's wrong. Sorry, that's wrong.
On mutual self-giving and service. In light of this profound vision of life as a gift to be cherished, and of the family as its responsible guardian, we categorically reject any practice that denies or exploits the origin of life and its development. Among these is abortion, which cuts short a growing life and refuses to welcome the gift of life. In this regard, the Holy See expresses deep concern about projects aimed at financing cross-border mobility for the purpose of accessing the so-called right to safe abortion. It also considers it deplorable that public resources are allocated to suppress life rather than being invested to support mothers and families. The primary objective must remain the protection of every unborn child and the effective and concrete support of every woman so that she is able to welcome life.
You can't sit a woman down and say, we're going to look after you, now welcome life. That's your job. A friend of mine, Joy, bartender, one of my bar patients, beautiful African woman, has kids already, has had the experience of having a kid with a father who was, I think, pretty good. She loves to fucking have fun, like most of us do. And she got pregnant with another guy who she's not serious with. She knows what lies ahead of her as a mother already if she continues with the child's life. And she and I were talking, and she says to her, it's like, you're not killing the soul. You're just saying not yet. Come to the next one. Come to in a better. She's choosing to want to have that child in a better situation. She doesn't see it as killing a soul. She sees it's part of her body. It's not. It hasn't got a personality yet. So we step on ants every day, and we don't cry. If you don't cry, if you're gonna fucking treat every life as precious, then we should be fucking crying every time we step on an ant. It's impossible. Let the mother decide. Bottom line, if she doesn't want to have an abortion, then she has the child. It's her responsibility. That's her choice.
Of surrogacy, by transforming gestation into a negotiable service, this violates the dignity both of the child, who is reduced to a product, and of the mother, exploiting her body and the generative process, and distorting the original relational calling of the family. Similar considerations can be extended to the sick.
Raising a family in today's world is not the same as it was back in the day. Sometimes you got to put food on the table, roof over their head. You need money for that. In a world where a woman can show a photo of her fucking foot and exploit her foot with OnlyFans and make enough money for said roof and food on table, it's her body, her talent. She has a pretty foot. Let her fucking show her foot. That's how you raise a family.
To those who are elderly or isolated, who at times struggle to find a reason to continue living. Civil society and states also have a responsibility to respond concretely to situations of vulnerability, offering solutions to human suffering, such as palliative care, and promoting policies of authentic solidarity rather than encouraging deceptive forms of compassion, such as euthanasia.
Deceptive.
A comparable reflection can be made concerning the many young people who are forced to confront numerous hardships, including drug addiction.
Yep.
In order to prevent millions of young people around the world,
but you got to overcome addiction is the most powerful rite of passage a person can go through. You've got to get addicted first to overcome it. If you live like a priest, you absolve yourself of a whole bunch of suffering and learning. Stuff that will make you a better person. I would rather listen to a pope who's been an addict and overcome that addiction, like Bill Hicks.
Efforts are required to eradicate this scourge upon humanity and the drug trafficking that fuels it.
Scourge. Everyone has their poison. Jesus drank wine, for God's sake. It's the same thing. It's just to chase a buzz. If you say drugs are a scourge, you're saying wine's a scourge. You're saying Jesus is a scourge. Sorry. It's true.
Together with these efforts, there must be adequate policies for recovery from addiction, as well as greater investment in human development, education, and the creation of employment opportunities.
Same thing.
In light of these challenges, we firmly reiterate that the protection of the right to life constitutes the indispensable foundation of every other human right. A society is healthy and truly progresses only when it safeguards the sanctity of human life and works actively to promote it. The aforementioned considerations lead me to believe that in the current context, we are seeing an actual short circuit of human rights. The right to freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, religious freedom, and even the right to life are being restricted in the name of other so-called new rights, with the result that the very framework of human rights is losing its vitality and creating space for force and oppression. This occurs when each right becomes self-referential, and especially when it becomes disconnected from reality, nature, and truth.
That's nice. I like that.
Distinguished ambassadors, while St. Augustine highlights the coexistence of the heavenly and earthly cities until the end of time, our era seems somewhat inclined to deny the city of God its right of citizenship. It seems that only the earthly city exists, enclosed exclusively within its borders. Seeking only imminent goods undermines that tranquility of order, which for Augustine constitutes the very essence of peace, which concerns society and nations as much as the human soul itself, and is essential for any civil coexistence. In the absence of a transcendent and objective foundation, only self-love prevails, to the point of indifference to God, who governs the earthly city.
It's one thing about atheists, right? If it's just about self-love, you're a selfish cunt. You're denying something outside of you. Therefore, you can play by any rules you want. You can kill someone and not feel bad. Well, you could, but but I feel bad about it because it's my choice to feel bad about it. No, you don't have a choice to feel bad about killing someone. It's natural. You think nature has a choice?
Great is the folly of pride in those individuals who think that the supreme good...
By the way, I'd like to officially say I'm not a religious person. I don't want to say I'm a spiritual person. I don't even want to say... The closest thing I am is a Satanist. Look up the 7 tenets.
Can be found in this life,
if I was to
and that they can become happy by their own resources. Pride obscures both reality itself and our empathy toward others.
Yes,
it is no coincidence that pride is always at the root of every...
Do me a favor. If you want to go on a bit of a trip, take some acid or some mushrooms, put on the song Rosetta Stone by Tool, the album 10,000 Days, it's on Spotify, and just, when you're tripping, listen to that song. It's exactly what he's saying in a much cooler way. Those who know.
Of every conflict.
Bottom line, it says, don't let your pride get in the way of the message.
Consequently, as I recalled in my message for the World Day of Peace, we lose our sense of realism and surrender to a partial and distorted view of the world, disfigured by darkness and fear, thus paving the way for the mentality of confrontation, which is the precursor to every war.
If you look with eyes of fear and darkness, you are fueling conflict that will lead to war. It's true.
Context, starting with the ongoing war in Ukraine and the suffering inflicted on the civilian population. Faced with this tragic situation, The Holy See strongly reiterates the pressing need for an immediate ceasefire and for dialogue motivated by a sincere search for ways leading to peace. I make an urgent appeal to the international community not to waver in its commitment to pursuing just.
What does Putin have to say about this? What does even the other guy have to say about this? Someone has to stop. Look, what happens if Ukraine says, you know what, it's not worth it, just take over? And what, then they have to live like Russians? Not all Russians are bad. Not all Russian systems are bad. Just stop the killing. I know it seems like you're giving in, but maybe that's the ultimate thing you do. You give in, and then you absorb them into your country, and then you influence from the inside. And then Russian countries who are living in the new Ukraine, or whatever they want to call it, become a specialized kind of Russia. Look at Hungary. Look at how many borders they had to change. All those towns in those other countries still consider themselves Hungarian. Sometimes you have to turn the other cheek if you want to end the fucking lives that this is causing. The two leaders should fucking meet, and they should say, let's not leave this room until we agree to disagree, but we agree on one thing. Not one more life that gets lost. Fucking simple.
And lasting solutions that will protect the most vulnerable and restore hope to the afflicted peoples. I likewise emphasize the Holy See's full willingness to support any initiative that promotes peace and harmony. At the same time, we see this in the Holy Land, where, despite the truce announced in October, the civilian population continues to endure a serious humanitarian crisis, adding further suffering to that already experienced. The Holy See is especially attentive to any diplomatic initiative that seeks to guarantee to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip a future of lasting peace and justice in their own land, as well as to the entire Palestinian people and the entire Israeli people. In particular, the two-state solution remains the institutional perspective for meeting the legitimate aspirations for both peoples. Yet sadly, there has been an increase in violence in the West Bank against the Palestinian civilian population, which has the right to live in peace in its own land. The escalating tensions in the Caribbean Sea and along the American Pacific coast are also a cause for serious concern. I wish to repeat my urgent appeal that peaceful political solutions to the current situation should be sought, keeping in mind the common good of the peoples and not the defense of partisan interests. This pertains in particular to Venezuela in light of recent developments. In this regard, I renew my appeal to respect the will of the Venezuelan people and to safeguard the human and civil rights of all, ensuring a future of stability and concord. To this end, inspiration may be drawn from the example of two of its children who I had the joy of canonizing last October, José Gregorio Hernández and Sister Carmen Rendiles. May their witness inspire the building of a society founded on justice, truth, freedom, and fraternity, and thus enable the nation to rise from the grave crisis that has afflicted it for so many years. Other crises are scattered across the global landscape. First, I refer to the desperate situation in Haiti, marked by many forms of violence, from human trafficking to forced exile and kidnappings.
You haven't mentioned us yet. The most mistreated group of people in the history of humankind, the mentally ill. What are you going to say about that? You haven't addressed us yet. You haven't spoken about over-medication, about Ritalin, about ADHD, about over-prescription, about labels, about carrying around a cross, a taint, about family violence. about homeless, about people losing their jobs, dropping out of school, being addicts. Mental illness has not been mentioned yet.
In this regard, it is
We're
my
the ones
hope
that you electrify as a last ditch effort. Or over medicate. Here, take. Pay, take. We're the ones that you kick around in hospitals. Find overworked, tired nurses who would rather beat us than let us kill ourselves. Have you seen what happened with Francis' father, Pope Leo? What's happened to a lot of people who have lost their dignity and their own part of themselves in the name of peace on earth. Maybe some of these people you exercise thinking they were possessed by the devil, and really they were just sick. And I don't know, care how many ways you slice it, sick people do not get well when they're treated like possessed demons, and especially when they make movies like The Exorcist. You have 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 6 minutes to address this. And I bet you don't.
support of the international community, the country will be able to take the necessary
This
steps.
is what you guys are doing. You United Nations people, you high political, you popes, you're looking over the fence to try and fix things when underneath the fence is all the rot. All the rot, all the evil, all the mistreatment, all the misunderstandings, all the evil is right there, and you're looking over the fence trying to fix everything. Fix that, and you won't have to look over the fence anymore. Mental illness is indiscriminate. There's more in the West than in the East. There's no surprise there, but it's there as well, and they treat them differently. And you're a Western man with a Western religion. There's nothing in the Bible. Well, actually, it is all there. The poor. What do you think mentally ill people are? If they're listened to, they're rich, like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. Mentally ill or spiritually awakened. But mentally ill people who can't get their shit together and aren't trusted and are treated like trash end up like the Joker. Or people like me, broke. We're the real poor. You think women are poor these days? Maybe back in the day when the Bible was written, but not now. Women are rich. Kids are rich. We're the lepers of the 21st century. We're the poor. We're the homeless. Every one of them. Homeless. All of them. Addicts. And addiction is a mental illness. I'm sorry. And you and society have dropped the ball looking after us. Because we're the ones. The ones coming back from war with a mental illness. The ones beating up their wives with mental illness. The wives egging their husbands on to beat them up. Mental illness. The ones who have been ripping their kids away from fathers who then commit suicide. Mental illness. Kids in class who can't concentrate because they see things. Mental illness. Mental illness, but like, let's take the illness out of it and call it mental speciality. The whole world is sick and the whole world can't go to hospital. So we got to turn the Garden of Eden into a place of care. Adam and Eve, I bet you the Garden of Eden, the real reason the devil showed up was, hey guys, you're just lying around doing nothing because you don't know anything. You need to work for this place. You need to put in the fucking effort. You got to grow those fucking vegetables. You got to tend to these trees and these animals. You're just sitting around. So here's how you do it. Eat this apple and be useful. The devil was like, you don't deserve Eden. Go out there in the real world and earn this place back. And then he winked at God, and God said, good job, Lucifer. They need to be tainted to be forgiven. I can't forgive a species that doesn't air. And that's where you come in. Anyway.
Possible to restore democratic order, end violence, and achieve reconciliation and peace. Nor can we forget the situation that has affected the Great Lakes region of Africa for decades, plagued by violence that has claimed many victims.
I like that he's acknowledging things that the normal Nuff wouldn't know.
I encourage the parties involved to seek a definitive, just,
but again, he's talking about geopolitics, he's not talking about social politics.
And lasting solution that will put an end to a conflict that has lasted far too long. Similarly, I think of the situation in Sudan, which has been transformed into a vast battlefield, as well as the continuing political instability.
He obviously doesn't think that the issues of the gays are as crucial as the issues of these people in these countries in war-torn. Like when the gays are like, we want, you know what? Fuck off, you've got it. You've had it for years. All right? Since Philadelphia, the movie. Tom Hanks. Thank you very much, Tom. Let's move on. You're in. Out yourselves. No one's going to give you shit. As in, no one's going to be like judging you. That's too good. We're done with that. Same for women. He's dealing with war-torn places. You know? Where's the Free Sudan t-shirts? Israel's popular. Ukraine can't help but be popular because it involves Russia and it's in Europe. But like, come on, guys, don't annoy the Pope with, you know, with LGBTQ. Like, fuck off. You know, have your festivals, have fun, but like, don't think that there's work to be done. You're done. He's focusing on the real fucking big issues, but he hasn't mentioned the biggest one yet.
Family of Nations, which came into being following the referendum.
For the leaders of the world, this is their responsibility. For the average Joe, I couldn't give a fuck what's happening in Sudan. I'm sorry. There's shit going on down the street here as well. Alright? See, this is what I mean. Let the little people care about the little people. Let the big people care about the big people. But don't expect everyone to be fucking, you know, feeling the guilt and the responsibility of helping someone on the other side of the world. That's unrealistic. It's us like, by contrast,
15
why aren't we
years
worried
ago.
about what the aliens are doing on the other side of the
We cannot fail to mention the intensifying signs of tension in East Asia.
What business is it of ours to get involved in their affairs and them the other way around? So exercise broad strokes, but allow the little strokes to exist, and we take care of our own in that regard. And that is a distance thing, purely about distance.
Parties involved will adopt a peaceful and dialogue-based approach to the contentious issues that are a source of potential conflict. My thoughts turn in particular to the grave humanitarian and security crisis afflicting Myanmar, which is further aggravated by the devastating earthquake last March. With renewed intensity, I make an appeal that paths of peace and inclusive dialogue be courageously chosen so as to guarantee everyone fair and timely access to humanitarian aid. To be authentic, democratic processes must be accompanied by the political will to pursue the common good, to strengthen social cohesion, and to promote the integral development of every person. At the heart of many of the situations I've mentioned, we can see something that Augustine himself pointed out, namely the persistent idea that peace is only possible through the use of force and deterrence. While war is content with destruction, peace requires continuous and patient efforts of construction as well as constant vigilance. Such efforts are required of everyone, starting with the countries that possess nuclear arsenals. I think in particular of the important need to follow up on the New START treaty, which expires in February. Indeed, there's a danger of returning to the race of producing ever more sophisticated new weapons, also by means of artificial intelligence. The latter is a tool that requires appropriate and ethical management, together with regulatory frameworks focused on the protection of freedom and human responsibility.
That's fine.
Dear ambassadors, notwithstanding the tragic situation before our eyes, peace remains a difficult yet realistic good. As Augustine reminds us, peace is the aim of our good because it is the very aim of the city of God to which we aspire.
You can't have peace without chaos. It's impossible. Your vision of peace is unsustainable. Imagine if everyone is happy. Everyone is provided for. No one is starving. Everyone has everything. And then my neighbour starts playing music really loud. And I put my head over the fence and go, can you turn the music down? And they're having, I don't know, a really important moment for them, and then it's interrupted and they snap back no. And then there's an argument. See what I mean? Hey, I. Yeah, okay. I'm ready to wait for you. Have you had a shower yet? You have a shower. Come on, Smelly. The shower? I don't know.
What, with the drip? How easy is that, huh?
Alright, can I finish my chat with Jack? Anyway, so you know what we're watching? The 44-minute speech by the Pope about the first ever world address. He did it 4 days ago. You know Pope Leo? He's American, you know. And I'm listening to 44 minutes of his speech, and I agree with 90% of it. You know who he hasn't mentioned?
What?
He mentions everyone except for one group of people who are the most mistreated people in the world. Mentally ill people. He talks about domestic violence, mentally ill. He talks about homeless, mentally ill. He talks about war. Mentally ill people are making decisions as leaders. Look at Putin. He just wants a statue. Oh, I created. He wants peace, right? But his peace. He just wants the statue. All these Russians, they're all obsessed with Hungarians. They're all obsessed with statues like glory, glory, music, music. I created peace by force, and this is what he's saying. The problem they have, the Pope has, is Israel and Russia and America are letting people use force for peace.
So what's he trying to say?
That more money should be put into negotiation of diplomacy. He wants the two leaders in the same room, and he wants them to not leave until they agree on stopping the deaths. So no more war, ceasefire. And you know what he says? Maybe Ukraine should give up as well.
Of course.
You know what?
Okay.
By not giving up, you know what happens if they give up? Oh, so the Russians take over. Look at Hungary. Look at all those areas and other parts of the next to Hungary that are now like Croatia and other. They still consider themselves Hungarians in those towns, and they still have Hungarian flags everywhere, and they still eat Hungarian food. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. People are dying, Mum, every day because of this. They're having their faces blown off. Just stop. Just say, Putin, come on over. Come on, we'll have tea. We'll integrate our cultures. And then Putin will get his statue, and then people live, yeah.
Everyone will be happy. Exactly.
Like, force, okay, how do you stop force? You need a bigger hammer, right? Who's got the biggest hammer in the world? China and America. Do you reckon they're going to stop? Russia, they don't care. It suits them. All the power is in Ukraine's hands. All the president has to do is, you know what, let's just swallow our pride and let him take over. And we'll be rich for it too. We'll become Ukrainian Russians. Big deal. Move the lines on the map. Just stop sending people to die. It's as simple as that's what he's saying. Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Have a shower. I'm nearly done. He's nearly finished.
We aspire, even unconsciously, and of which we can enjoy a foretaste even in the earthly city. During our pilgrimage on this earth, Peacemaking requires humility and courage.
Yes.
The humility to live truthfully and the courage to forgive. In the Christian life, we see these verses reflected at
I did a video on this fucking 6 months ago. The courage to forgive. Come on, Pope, keep up, man.
Christmas, when truth, the eternal Word of God, becomes humble flesh. And at Easter, when the condemned righteous one forgives his persecutors and grants them his life as the risen one. Moreover, if we look more closely, there is no
The whole point of Jesus killing himself was to point the finger at human beings and go, look how evil you guys are and what you've done to me. And yet, I still love and forgive you. It's as simple as that. Forgiveness is the ultimate virtue. The ultimate virtue.
no shortage of signs of courageous hope in our
You can't forgive without evil. Try it. Doesn't work.
time, and we
Gotcha.
must constantly support them. I think, for example, of the Dayton Accords, which 30 years ago put an end to the blood-stained war in Bosnia and Herzegovina.